These are the 5 people that are going to sit and watch my presentation. All right, hi everyone, I'm Rachel Ranke and I'm here to talk about interpersonal relationships in the workplace comparing the United States and Japan. The 5 dimensions of cultures varies from place to place. Today I'm going to talk about 3 of the 5 dimensions that I deem most important when understanding cultures. Japan created Honda in 1955. With its great success, it soon became a larger company. Honda eventually expanded to America in 1969. This is just one example of the same company being in 2 different countries. Therefore, it's easy to see people who are Japanese in the United States. This is what makes it so important to understand others' cultures. If you do not experience working with another person of the Japanese culture, there's a great chance that you might someday. This presentation will explain to you what you might experience at the workplace. Cultures are in our everyday lives. We will interact with people of different cultures, but to truly understand them will make a big difference. Learning about different cultures that you are unfamiliar with can help you understand their work style. Cultures vary in 5 dimensions, which impacts the communication between individuals. In this presentation, I will be focusing on the interpersonal relationship of the workplace of the United States and Japan. I have read and studied the 5 dimensions of culture as well as looked at credible resources that explains Japanese culture. First, I will discuss the individualism and collectivism of the United States and Japan and how it pertains to the workplace. Then I will explain how the uncertainty avoidance plays a part in the workplace of both cultures. Lastly, I will discuss long-term and short-term orientation of the United States and Japan and how it impacts their workplaces. The 5 dimensions start with how a person views working aside another. They could either have individual goals and be considered an individualist, or they can focus on group goals and personal relationships, which makes them a collectivist. The United States is more of an individualist society, meaning that they focus on the benefits of themselves. They would most likely keep in mind promotions and pay increases rather than benefit the entire group. This is most because the United States has very competitive jobs. A great example of individualism in the United States would be a worker given an assignment in a group. After the group gets done with the project, only one person is promoted. The worker did not complete this project to benefit the entire group. They completed this project to benefit their self. On the other hand, Japanese culture is a collectivist society. In the workplace, they're more likely to focus on the benefits of the entire company rather than just getting a promotion or a pay increase. An example of collectivism in Japan would be the entire work group being assigned a task, and each individual is worried about the well-being of others than themselves. Now that I have spoken about individualism and collectivism dimension of culture, I am now going to explain the second dimension that I find important in the workplace. This is uncertainty avoidance. Uncertainty avoidance is important when communicating. This is because some people may feel more comfortable if everything is explained in fine detail, or they could possibly feel uneasy if everything is explained. The United States is rated in the middle of uncertainty avoidance. Therefore, in a job, someone is more likely to ask if they need more explanation. An example of uncertainty avoidance in the United States would be if someone is being trained for a new job, they wouldn't expect to be told how to do simple tasks. Japan is one of the most uncertainty avoidant countries in the world. This is often attributed to the fact that Japan is constantly threatened by natural disasters, from earthquakes, tsunamis, typhoons, to volcano eruptions. In their culture, even the way that you are dressed and behave is written down in books. Therefore, when training a person of the Japanese culture, it is important to explain everything. A good example of uncertainty avoidance would be a person being trained for a new job and being explained every task. They would want simple tasks explained to them because they would want to make sure that they're doing it right for that particular company. Now that I have explained uncertainty avoidance, I am now going to explain the final dimension that I believe is important to understand the workplace, and that is long-term and short-term orientation. Long-term and short-term orientation show how every society has to maintain some links with its own past while dealing with the challenges of the present and future. The United States is a short-term orientation. This indicates that Americans are more likely to focus on short-term goals. Business measures their performance on a short-term basis, with profit and loss statements being issued on quarterly basis. This also drives individuals to strive for quick results within the workplace. An example would be a company would focus on quick goals to gain quick success. They also determine failure a lot quicker too. Japan is one of the most long-term oriented societies. This indicates that Japanese citizens focus on long-term goals. They focus on goals that are going to help them in the future. An example of that is people of the Japanese culture focus on understanding the questions rather than the answer. Therefore, they are more likely to spend more time focusing on why their companies are failing rather than trying to make money quick. Today, I went over individualism and collectivism of the United States and Japan. Then I discussed uncertainty avoidance. Lastly, I explained the difference between United States and Japan's long-term and short-term orientation. Culture varies in 5 dimensions, which impacts the communication between individuals in the workplace. In this presentation, I focused on the 3 dimensions on interpersonal relationships of the workplace of the United States and Japan. In conclusion, culture varies from place to place. I have discussed 3 of the 5 dimensions that I believe to be most important in the workplace in Japan and the United States. It is very important to be aware of the different cultures around us. To truly understand cultures will make a huge difference in the workplace. Thank you. And they are all still here.